Joining me now is Minnesota Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips. He was part of a recent bipartisan meeting with White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows on a coronavirus relief package. And he's also called for the Postmaster General to be subpoenaed to appear before the House. Congressman Phillips, it's good to see you. I want to first ask you about this meeting. I mean, you know, we were all lamenting last week the lack of talks between, you know, the president won't speak to Speaker Pelosi at all. Mitch McConnell didn't participate. So I was intrigued when the Problem Solvers Caucus got a meeting with Mark Meadows, one-time Freedom Caucus head. Did you make progress?
Well, you know, Chuck, that's why our caucus exists. We're so troubled by the culture of Congress that rewards obstinance, punishes cooperation. We're 50 members strong, Democrats and Republicans, and we look for opportunities where we can help break impasses, be a voice of reason. We found the conversation, which lasted about an hour over the weekend with Chief of Staff Meadows, to be very productive. I think it'll help us try to bridge some of the gaps and hopefully bring the negotiators back to the table and get something done. I don't think it's as philosophical anymore as it is how to resource these various categories appropriately. So we're going to keep trying. That's our responsibility.
Which Mark Meadows do you feel like you were meeting with? The guy who used to run the Freedom Caucus, who was no friend of the Problem Solvers Caucus, or somebody different?
Well, you know, Chuck, I'm an eternal optimist. I remember the Mark Meadows that I saw in the Capitol when he was celebrating the late Elijah Cummings with a beautiful eulogy. I hope that's the Mark Meadows that's showing up for these negotiations. It was very fact-based. It was very productive. It was respectful. And I hope, like I said, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I can't guarantee anything, but I'd like to think I still have faith, despite Americans' falling faith in our government and our election. Yeah. I do have faith that ultimately people will make the right decisions and all will recognize how much human suffering is occurring in our country right now. And if we cannot come together, shame on everybody.
This issue with the Postal Service, how much of it do you think is an intentional misinformation campaign coming from some? And how much of it are you concerned is intentional sabotage of the service itself?
Well, you know, Chuck, first of all, we can't trust anything that comes from the president's mouth, which is a shame to say, but it's becoming fact. We can't ascertain what the truth is. That's why so many of us have called for the Postmaster General to appear in front of Congress, in front of the Oversight Committee, to testify. And as I tweeted, if he won't testify, we should subpoena him. If he doesn't come under subpoena, we should use the Sergeant at Arms to detain him, because we have done enough advocation in Congress and got to stand up for our Constitution and our country. I should also remind everybody, Chuck, resourcing the Postal Service with billions of dollars is one thing, and yes, it's terribly important. But sending money to the Postal Service without a correlating strategy to improve it is entirely different. So I don't know if anything nefarious is going on. I'd like to think not, but we have a responsibility to understand it. And I can tell you some other things. I've spoken with postal carriers. I've heard stories from my district. I got an email right here today from one of a business owner here in my district in Minnesota who's in the medical device arena. His shipments are delayed by days right now, many of them going to COVID patients. It's real. Mailboxes are being removed. Sorting machines are being dismantled. Systems are changing right before a historic election in our country. And of course, the Postmaster General, a major donor to the president, someone who has massive investments in the Postal Service competitors and vendors. It's another question we got to start talking about, Chuck, is presidents appointing their big donors in a culture that we have got to break. It is corrupting no matter what kind of president does it, in what position. We got to start addressing these things proactively. That's our responsibility to restore faith in government.
All right. Well, you got a lot of work to do. If you look at our poll,
we do.
Sadly, right now, a lot of work to do.